Hey Blockheads, we've got a Patreon now. We would really appreciate your support to help us keep this podcast going. There's a link in the description below, so check it out. Now on to the episode. Beebity bop! Hey! Welcome to Creative Block. We're your hosts, Gene.
And V, we interview people in the animation industry about their life, work, and hobbies while we doodle jam.
We asked people on Twitter if they had specific topics they wanted us to discuss, as well as some drawing prompts.
And today with us, we have Katie Graziano. Hey!
Hey!
Hello, everybody.
How you
Hello,
doing?
Katie.
I'm doing great. How are you all?
We're doing well.
Doing pretty good.
I know you because we worked together on Jellystone, which at the time of recording just dropped.
Yeah,
That's great.
or last week.
Yeah. Your episodes are fantastic. I was very honored to do revisions on them. They're great. You've worked on a ton of stuff. You worked with V on Thundercats and lots of other projects. But enough of me, hyping you up. Tell us who you are, what you do.
Yeah, my name's Katie. I am a story artist, as you said. I like to make comics when I'm not doing boards.
Mm-hmm.
And I just like to make funny, cute stuff in my free time. And on work. I like making funnies.
You like making the funnies.
Yes, that's all I care for. I don't need any serious stuff in my life or in my work.
No drama allowed.
Life is already serious enough.
Life is hard. Well, I think anyway, I think that I think you do a great job with the funny, and we would love to know where does that come from? Where does the funny come from in your life? How'd you get your start?
I think honestly, it's just from my family just being really not holding anything back. They're very much they'll make fun of everyone in our family, including me. So I've kind of learned, I guess humor is almost like a defense mechanism.
Sure.
As well. Just getting that hard skin early and just being all right, well, I'll just give it back to people or let it roll off me. And
yeah,
that's how I'll enjoy stuff.
The ribbing, right? Is that, would you say that that's
yeah, for sure. And then it was kind of just seeing also a lot of things I enjoy are just funny stuff. I don't know. I could never. Well, I do really like anime, but that's mostly for romance stuff.
Sure.
I could never get into really hardcore serious anime unless there was a super wacky character or a wacky concept.
Mm-hmm.
Even stuff now.
What kind of channel did you kind of grow up watching? Are you more of a Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network kid?
Definitely, I think more Cartoon Network. That definitely influenced me more.
Mm-hmm.
But I did Nick a lot. I can distinctly, I don't know about you, V and Gene, but I remember when SpongeBob was coming out, just the promos for it, and just getting really fucking excited and just I grew up and my grandmom had cable, but I didn't have it at my actual house. Mm-hmm. So it would be just planning days to go over my grandmom's house to watch premieres of
great.
cartoons. Yeah.
I do remember that.
But it was kind of just I think we had a big family event, and I was we can't. I need to watch the premiere of SpongeBob. We were just me and my sister screaming, just SpongeBob. She's what is that? What?
Do you feel it was a big influence on you early on?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
SpongeBob's great. It's just SpongeBob's really cute and super funny. And I don't know, it's one of those cartoons that are just really really without being too mean, I guess.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't know about later episodes, but it's cute. I remember Oh, yeah.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I remember that promo, and then I remember the promos for Ed, Edd and Eddy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Just them chasing a jawbreaker, and I was super into that. I was holy, what is this? It just looks so weird, and I feel people underestimate how attractive that stuff is for kids. Just really weird, not normal stuff will like super like entice kids, because I was like, wow, I've never seen anything like that. Why are their tongues so long? Why are they like gross looking? Like, I need to know more.
That show is insane. Like,
yeah.
I don't know how it ever got made. I remember I like, I think I said something about it on Twitter. I don't remember. And somebody who worked on the show replied to me, because I think I was asking like, how did they manage to translate the boards into animation so well? Because knowing the way the pipelines are now, it's like, this must have been insanely difficult to pull off.
Yeah.
And somebody replied to me that worked on it, and they were like, oh, well, a lot of the animation was done in the same studio, because I think it was in Canada. And
that's
so they
why.
they had a direct line. Plus, the government, I think, helped fund the production as well. And so it's just like, it's just like it was exactly what you would think, which is that like everyone's in the same building, and also there's more money. Like,
yeah,
crazy that's how you make a good show.
That's really interesting. Yeah, because the animation is really, really good. And also, it's funny that you mentioned that it was kind of gross, because I was just like talking about 90s Nick and how a lot of the cartoons were like more gross and grimy, and now all the cartoons are so clean. They're so very like pristine.
Yeah,
definitely. It was like, I don't know, and I was super into it, because as a kid you're just like, I want to go play in some mud and just get really dirty. That's all I would do as a kid. I would just like get the hose outside and just make mud and just spend the whole day outside.
I didn't think that there were actually any kids that did that. You're like a cartoon child.
It was just like,
I just went outside and I sat on the mud.
I would get like a giant t-shirt on and
what
just
the
like...
fuck? I didn't know that there were people who did this.
It's like, yep, this is gonna be my whole day.
I was such an OCD kid. I didn't know that people like played in the mud. That's fascinating.
That's so funny. I do remember though, as a little kid, my mom like telling me not to step in puddles, because I thought, like when you step in puddles, it's just fun, like the noise and like the ripples and all that. So I do. That's the only thing I remember. It's not as good as getting a big t-shirt and like going in the mud, but it's
That sounds great.
Were you always drawing, or kind of what was your relationship to drawing as a kid and like throughout your cool journey, kind of?
I definitely drew, but not, like some people are like, oh yeah, I picked up a pencil at 4 and I was drawing ever since.
Every guest we had, yes.
And I'm like, no shade,
but that is the common thread. Yeah.
Not me. I was playing in mud. I don't know what everyone else was doing.
Playing with
nice.
the mud.
Finally, we got someone who has a different. I'm so happy to hear that.
I feel like I didn't like. I feel like all kids drew though, because I mean I've taught kids before, and it's like, oh, like kids love just like picking up and coloring stuff and like drawing out imaginations, but I wasn't like serious about it until probably high school. So that's when I was like, oh, maybe like I'm pretty good at this. I could maybe go to school for it. But before then it was just I don't know, I was into sports and stuff. And I always liked cartoons and comics, but not until then I would actually like pursue it.
So what did you do like out of high school?
Like once I graduated high school?
Sure, yeah. What was the first like plan?
I looked at a couple schools in high school. Like I looked at Ringling, which a couple of our friends went to. And then I looked at Savannah College in Georgia. Like my parents took me to both to tour, and they looked really cool. I was like, oh wow, they have like Shrek movie posters up, and
that's
it's a real deal. They have computers.
This is the real deal. They have Shrek and a computer.
Shrek was born here.
Shrek is born there.
But eventually, I just kind of not settled, but I mean, Ringling, I only got into their illustration program, not the animation. So I was like, well, that's out. I like cartoons. I want to make cartoons more. And then I think not SVA. Savannah was just too expensive. So I was just like, I got a scholarship at the University of the Arts.
Oh, cool.
And I was like, it's in Philly. I like Philly a lot. I took like high school classes there on the weekends. So I was like, I already know kind of what it's like and I like it. So let me just try this. And yeah, that's where I met like Drew and a bunch of like my first like animation friends, I'd say, was in school.
And Drew is
Drew's my fiance. I hate
your
saying that.
boy. I know. And so you grew up near Philadelphia, right?
Yes. Yeah, I grew up in South Jersey.
East Coast.
Yeah, East Coast.
Nice. Where did you end up going to school then?
It's called the University of the Arts of Philadelphia. It's not the Art Institute, even though the Art Institute of Philadelphia was like right around the corner.
Would you guys like hang out with some of the kids from that school, or was it just like kind of like? Right
I never met. I wasn't like actively avoiding them, but I just never like saw anyone from that school. I don't know. And then the school like shut down later while I was still in school, so I don't know what was going on over there.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of art schools are dropping like flies because it's just like they're mostly for profit and kind of exploitive.
For sure. I mean, it's so different now than when we were in college.
Yeah.
Like extremely. Like for me, it was like, okay, I have to go to this school or I have no one to talk about animation with or like to learn from. Because like the internet was out there, but not nearly as much.
Yeah,
that's true. I feel like now, you can find any kind of fandom or niche, and there'll be like forums and Discord servers, and
yeah, it's crazy.
Were you on online communities at all, like DeviantArt or anything?
I joined DeviantArt I think in high school, but like my senior year. Like I definitely started things like way too late. I was like, oh, what's this? Like even though it's been out forever, I was on I was role playing on MySpace. Nice. I was role playing like Teen Titans. I did weird stuff on the internet. I played Habbo Hotel. I would go on like IMVU. Did you guys ever play that?
Yeah, I remember IMVU.
Just fascinated with like chatting programs. Maybe I was lonely.
Maybe. You went on all of the services that were just like ads on other websites.
Yeah.
You actually went on them.
They enticed me. I was like, wow, I want to talk to people. My mom actually did catch me like role playing on MySpace, and I got in big trouble. She was just like, what is this? Like, what? Who's Robin? And why are you role playing as Raven? It was very embarrassing, but
That's really fun. I think everyone, I shouldn't say everyone, but I know a lot of people in our generation went through that phase, I think, of like doing the role play at some point. Because I definitely did that on forums.
Yeah, if you end up doing storyboards, there's probably at least one moment in your life when you role played. Like I didn't role play on like online communities, but with me and my friends when we were like in elementary and like middle school, we had like original characters and we would role play as these all the time. Yeah,
that's cool.
So that's kind of like I don't know, I feel like you kind of you don't need to do that to be a border artist, but I feel like it kind of shows a sort of brain that is kind of compatible with the job.
Yeah, we're role playing.
Yeah,
is
what we're doing.
This is just a big RP that we're getting paid to.
Every time I pitched a board, it was basically role playing Yogi. It's just like, this is my Yogi Bear RP. Welcome.
Yeah. Fanfic. Where's the line? But I guess the line is when you're getting paid to do it is no longer a fanfic.
That's very true.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think it still might be a fanfic. Did you have any like artistic projects that you started doing in college?
I think in like freshman year of my school, it was just like foundation courses.
Yeah, sure.
And then eventually like they start being like, oh, you're going to storyboard like short projects and short animations.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of like when I started to do comics. I guess I like officially like drawing them, and I look back at them and they're not good, but they're still funny. So that makes me happy. Yeah, right? It's just like I get like the jokes there and like the timing is there, which is important. But yeah.
What do you mean when you say that they're not good? Is it just that like the art, or because you say they're funny, so
That's true.
good.
That's very true. I think it's just like the drawings have improved since then, but also just like the panels are very wobbly. I think not good is maybe like not clear. I think that's like, and I mean that for like boarding, it's like, oh, you can draw whatever you want, but if we can't tell what's going on,
Yeah.
and maybe I can just tell what's going on because I remember drawing it. But I think if I showed someone now, they'd be like, oh, I'm not sure what's really happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, comedy is clarity. It really kind of comes down to like it doesn't have to, and with boards, hopefully on good board jobs, it's not up to being very like clear. It's not about being very on model. It's about being clear. You want to make sure that the joke lands or the pose lands or whatever it is.
Yeah, for sure.
But then some shows will make everything terrible for you and want you to draw basically like keyframes.
Yeah. And you have to focus on that instead of the comedy aspect.
Yeah.
Well, that's true, and it kind of depends also on like what the show asks of the board artist. If it's like a script-driven show, if it's a board-driven show, or if it's like kids or adult, it's like all these like kind of different nuances that ask for very different skills of the board artist.
Yeah.
But when you graduated from college, so kind of like how old were you? You were on the East Coast, and then kind of what did that look like for you?
I mean, graduating was weird because, I was dating Drew, and he was kind of like, I'm going to move to LA and just go out and try for it. Like, he didn't have anything planned, but he knew he wanted to go out. Where my parents, I was like, at the same time studying animation, I was studying art education as a minor. So I stayed back and I actually went to graduate school and finished that. So we were like long distance for a while. So that kind of sucked. I feel like it was like fun. Yeah. Like my senior year was amazing. Like I really like our thesis animations and stuff. And then it was definitely like as soon as you graduate, it's like, oh, the real world hits. And you're just like, okay, now I have to like do something with what I've learned and like just really grind. But I was kind of just focused on finishing my degree. But Drew like went out, and thankfully he like immediately found a job on Billy Dilly, which was Aaron Springer's show at the time. Yeah. And I was just kind of like, oh, like maybe I do have a chance. So after I finished like my teaching degree, and that was like a year and a half after graduating animation, then I went and moved to LA. And yeah, that was like a struggle. I was just testing for things and like trying to like nip at anything, like any bites. And it was just, I had a part-time job at Kids Base in Pasadena, teaching kids while I was just trying to get an animation job for like a year, I think. And then I went on to Thundercats. So that was my first game.
So tell us about the teaching a little bit. So you did that for a year. What was that job?
The Kids Space was just like a outdoor children's museum. So I would teach like art and stuff there. And it was like, I look back and it's kind of nice because it's like the job didn't have anything to do with animation or comics. So anytime I had downtime on the job, I would just be like sketching out comics and thinking of stuff and like super inspired. And I would get home from work and just like immediately like draw comics. Because it was half like, oh, I want to be creative, but also like I need to make a ton of work like to get noticed, you know, and like build a portfolio. But you know, now I don't do that because it's not like that like need. So that doesn't like super push me. So now it's just like I do it just to be creative a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like that's something that's like I relate to that a lot because I feel like when I was in my last year of college, I was just like grinding because I felt like I always had to play catch up to my peers that were like way better than me. So I was just like, fuck, they're all gonna get jobs and I'm not. Yeah. So I was like throwing so much. And then you get your first gig and I don't know, and it's like a job that's kind of like whatever, and you're like, oh man, I gotta get something better. And so you just have to like keep posting all the time and be like and grind and just post and comment. And so I I relate. This is very a familiar feeling. I feel like I relate to what you're saying, that it would the kind of like almost like nostalgic feeling. That's like, oh, that was nice. That was nice being inspired all the time.
Yeah, right. Like at the time, it definitely wasn't, because like I would do tests and just get denied. Like I did a test for Unikitty, I did a test for Big Mouth, I did a test for Wacky Races, a lot of WB stuff actually.
Yeah.
And just like either get ghosted or not hear back, and it's just like, oh my god, like when is someone going to give you a chance? And I know like a lot of people go through that.
Everyone has to go through it. I mean, some people get lucky, but I think it's, and you know, they just like finish school and then they have a job.
Oh yeah.
But a lot of people, I think, have to go through that grind of just like rejection for like years.
That's something that's like really important to talk about, because it does feel like it is really hard to go through it. Like I definitely had moments when I was like, well, I'm never gonna get a show in LA. I'm always gonna work my entire life in France on a show nobody's ever gonna see doing like, I don't know, you know, and it's I don't know. What would you say was kind of what kept you going? Kind of what helped you keep going through these times, even though it was difficult, like emotionally?
I think just, you know, encouragement from Drew, and just like, I don't know. See, like people would tell me my work was good that were in animation, so I was like, okay, it can't be that bad. I think I just need to like be, unless they were lying, I don't know. But they were like, no, you got this. And I don't know. I was never like, I'm moving out of LA, because LA was still fun. I was still like meeting new people in animation. Sure. It was like a little awkward because you never want to like meet people and make it seem like you're only talking to them for a job, which has happened to me before. So people would always like ask me like, oh, what show are you on? And I'd just be like, oh, nothing. And then I would get a little awkward. I'm like, but it's fine. Like I'm not. Yeah. So sometimes that would suck though. It would just be like everyone talking about their cool jobs. I'd just be like, oh, I'm still working on it.
I feel like those animation parties can be like very
oh my gosh, yeah.
daunting. I remember, I don't know if you remember actually, but you did come over to a couple of the parties when I was like just roommates with like Kevin and Teresa.
I know.
And we didn't know each other that well at the time.
It's crazy. Like we knew each other from those. And I was like, oh, and I remember you were like showing all of us like this amazing zine you made.
Really?
It was just like, it was your one character. It was like, let me try and draw it. It was like the, like little fox, kind of. It was just like, this guy. And it was just like these beautiful backgrounds of mountains and stuff. And
I know exactly what that is.
Yeah. And I was just like, holy shit, like, is this who I'm competing with to get a job? I'm like, I need to pack up and go. And then Drew was like, no, like V is just like super amazing. You don't freak out.
Classic V.
Oh my god, it's so funny. It's so funny you say that, because I remember, you know, well, that was, so when I drew that zine that you're talking about with the little, I actually started drawing these when I was in college, and at the time when I was in college, I knew people kind of liked it, but it was too illustration-y or whatever that, I don't know, I never felt cool. So it's so funny to me that you felt like impressed by it, because I was just like, oh, this is just this whatever thing that I do and I'm ashamed of, but I'll just show it anyway.
No, you know, you never, that's like the thing. Sometimes people will like say that about just like little comics I put on Tumblr, like, oh, like you did that one comic, and I was like, oh, you like remember that? That was just like a thing I like almost shit posted and just like uploaded. But you never know like what
that's the stuff that sticks.
Yeah, like what will like influence people. It's crazy.
I agree. This is such a good thing to mention. Like how would you say, like how often did you post, and like what kind of what was the content that you would be most able to post? Like kind of what was the easiest kind of content for you to create and post?
I think just really short comics. Like I still haven't figured out how to do like a a long form comic. Like I don't have the attention for it. So I try to just challenge myself to like get a joke with just one page or like 10 panels the most. So I would focus on that. And for a while I was doing like these Bigfoot and alien comics that people really liked. So that motivated me, and I would just like do a couple comics and then make a zine out of them and just like pass them out at networking mixers. So I would do those and just like a lot of like cute sci-fi stuff. And then a lot of like comics about Drew, because I just like drawing him, and people
you just
love those.
him.
That's like, it's definitely like people love relationship comics, and I
Yes,
try they really, really do. And I try not to make them like super, I don't want to say normie, but just like the ones that are like, oh babe, you're taking all the blankets on the bed, you're so silly.
You're so cute.
Yeah.
Isn't that great? Look at our cat.
And it's just like, oh my god, you're just like me.
We have a funny cat.
Yeah.
Isn't this cat funny? I'm roasting like half of Instagram right now.
That's true. It's so funny
It's
though.
true.
I really do that though, in the way that like I feel like the comics that got me noticed when I was in Japan they weren't like relationship comics, but they did feature like my partner at the time, and it was just like kind of daily life comics kind of thing. And I think people enjoy that because it kind of shows you a point of view. It's a great way to kind of like show your skills as an artist, but also kind of like not advertise, but like kind of show what kind of a person you are.
Yeah, you're promoting yourself and your style of humor or whatever.
Yeah.
Right, because like storyboard is like a lot, like I think something that I didn't really understand before I moved to LA is that like testing for boards here in LA is a lot more like casting, like taking like casting calls.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like in France, it's just all about your skills. It's like, oh, can you draw this character, and do you have comedic timing, and that's it. But out here, I feel it's like more like, oh, are you the right fit for this job in terms of like your sense of humor and this and that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
which I am thankful for.
Like personal comics. What?
No, I just said I'm thankful for that. I think humor and just like sensibility is definitely one of my stronger suits, and like technical stuff for sure.
Right. Yeah, different skill set. Different board artists carry different skill sets, and like it makes sense for somebody that's hiring for a showrunner or producer or whoever to want to find the people who are going to execute on their vision. And so like that's not every board artist is going to be a good fit for every job. And so like there's some benefit to we've talked about it endlessly, I think, on this podcast, our thoughts on testing. But but it does have a purpose. But what was your first gig out of college?
The first one was Thundercats, so that's where I met V. Yeah, and it was like a little intimidating because I wanted to start as a revisionist or even honestly a PA, but Victor, the showrunner, was like, "Oh, just test for boards." I was like, "Oh, okay." And
that's awesome.
Yeah, Victor definitely like gave me a chance, and I'm super thankful for that show because like everyone took the time to like teach me like how to board professionally, you know, because no matter how much you read stuff or look at stuff online, it's like nothing compared to being on the show, you know, and just being in it and dealing with it.
I feel like it's funny, like I kept saying like as a first gig, it was a tough gig. It was hard, dude. I feel like, you know, I'm like, this is crazy. It's like, I know, well, you know, I don't think the haters are gonna listen to this episode, or maybe they will. Who knows? But
fuck 'em.
I feel like, the haters didn't really get that it's gonna. It was like, it was a lot of work. It was a tough show.
We only have cool fans. I don't want any. I don't want any CalArts criticizing weenies listening to Creative Block. So
be gone.
Get out of here. Yeah. This is an inclusive podcast.
But yeah, like I think that was a tough gig to start working on because it was like the schedule was tight, and it was like like there was like a lot of characters and a lot of action, and yeah, like you were like a great fit for the show. You like pulled through it like really well.
Yeah, I mean, it was like thanks to, on that show, it was definitely like we were all helping each other out for sure. Because I don't know why, I think like people get this idea too, like you go onto a production and it's just like you're competing, just like I need to make my board better and funnier and like more professional than like my other board artists. I'm like, no, like you're all on a ship together, and you don't even have time for that. You're just trying to like survive on some productions, and just like cheer each other on, and like all the time, like we would just ask each other like, oh, like, is this joke funny? How did you do the storyboard trick? Like, how do you board? Like, sometimes I think I would like go to V and be like, how do I board Lionel running like from this angle? I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, I remember doing that for you. Yeah, I did. I drew a couple like poses for you, but I love doing that though. Like, I mean,
I know it was super helpful.
It stroked my ego. I was really happy.
Everyone wins.
I'm like,
His
okay.
ego is the real winner.
Yeah. I'm like, please ask me for help all the time.
Yeah, you're like showing up to Katie's cubicle. You're like, so do you need any help?
Yeah.
Do you want me to draw anything? I'll do your whole episode. I don't care.
You want some help? No? Oh. Okay.
Oh. Slumps back to cube.
Yeah. I guess I have a whole episode of mine to finish anyway, I guess. But that was so fun.
What did you hop on to after Thundercats?
So Thundercats ended, and then I went on to a show called The Mighty Ones at DreamWorks, and that show was super, super fun, and it was new because it was board driven, where Thundercats was script. So that was the first time where I had to do a lot more writing in boards, which I actually really like. I think I'm like finding I like writing a lot more than drawing. Well, I still like drawing, but I think it made me realize like all my life, like comics are just a way to get like jokes I think of in like a physical form to share.
Totally.
So
yeah. Nobody wants to read, but
yeah,
when there's a visual, it's easier.
You're a really good writer, because I remember like you write some of the most random stuff, like, okay, like that. Sorry to put you on the spot with it, but I still think it's one of the funniest thing you wrote. It's that Kylo Ren in like the Cheesecake Factory. It's so funny. You have such a like wacky sense of humor. It's like offbeat. It's kind of the thing.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, it's very you. And it's always fun, but you are able to bake in like the drama in like the smallest kind of just like I'm not the biggest fan of like slice of life. Like a lot of slice of life, I'm like, everything's going well, and it's still going well. But like you do like that Kylo Ren was so funny because there is like this tension because he's so mad. I don't know, you get that down really well. And like
I mean, like it's just like I try and base everything off of like things that have happened. So, I mean, all the stuff that happened in there is just, like, things that have happened to me at Cheesecake Factory, I guess. It's just like, oh, I like the bread here because it has a little oats on top. And that's definitely something I have said, but it's just way funnier coming from, like, Kylo Ren. It's, like, this big, scary man.
Well, you gotta, like, pay attention to those things, and I think that's the brain of a writer.
Yeah.
Because I think that, like, I don't know. I find that, well, I was going to say that like I've been definitely seeing a lot more board artists, at least friends of mine that are board artists, take an interest in writing more. I think part of that is that boarding is excruciating and hard. And ultimately, I think a lot of people are like that, where we realize that we just want to tell jokes and not have to like do an 11-minute board or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Draw, all those gags and things. And like, but I think it takes all those friends I have that are board artists, including you, like clearly you're paying attention to those little nuances of like day-to-day life. And I think that's really cool. I think that's like a special kind of brain. It takes a special kind of thinking to like be on all the time and like remembering those kinds of things.
Yeah, I think that's why people always give the advice like You can't just like sit and draw. You should like go out and hang with your friends and like go visit places, because you'll just see like really weird shit. Like people are so weird. It just like writes itself. Like you'll just go out to a coffee shop and you'll see like a little old man like dunking bread in like root beer or something, and you'll be like, oh my god, I'm gonna write like a 10-page comic on this.
Man, that's amazing. I agree.
That
I feel
so
like
fucking good.
Yeah, I actually have been during like the pandemic just like going on Reddit a lot and like going on these like kind of like, I don't know, just people like talking about their life or whatever, just to kind of get that inspiration as well. But it's so funny, that example you gave with the little guy.
The man.
Yeah. People are, yeah.
I blamed it on the old man, but that's something I did when I was little. I would just get like a
oh, come on, don't throw the old man under the bus.
I did. The old man was me all along.
Shit.
I would get like a big loaf of just like hoagie bread, because I used to work. My family owns like a ice cream place back in New Jersey, so that's like where I worked, and I would always make comics about that place because we'd get really weird people. But when I was little, I would, dunk like a big loaf of bread in root beer and just eat it. And I was like, soggy.
What an interesting.
Listen, we gotta make a club, because there's like, I like the soggy texture. I'm one of the only people that I know. I put like cereals in the microwave. Just
what is happening?
What?
Right now? Did I stop? Did I like cross into a different dimension?
Did you guys never do that? Oh my god.
I did. Okay.
Okay.
Wait,
Gotcha.
wait, really? Wait, I've never done the soggy cereal.
Hold on. Yeah. No, I need to make this clear. That soggy thing is fucked up. I don't know what the hell is wrong with both of you.
No.
However, I have a sensitive palate. I still do, and so, but it's gotten better. But when I was a kid, I would microwave cereal for like 12 seconds to like just so
you don't do it for a whole
cold.
Minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people would like, for some reason. Go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead. State your.
I'm saying I agree. It's like, not only do you not want the cereal to be like fridge cold, but on top of that, you don't want the cereal to like kind of tear away at your palate, because it's like, it's so crispy and sharp. You know those like square cereals that are so pointy and they just like poke inside your mouth?
Well, I also
that's why you microwave.
I've discovered because I think kids cereal just like sucks. I realized that when I got older that like kids cereals are bad, and now that I'm an adult, I'm a healthy, growing man. I start eating like really boring like oat cereals and shit, like granola cereals, and they're so much like softer and better for my old man gums. And like, what is it? Peanut butter crunch is just like fucks up the roof of your mouth. So does like what is it? Trix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are we talking about anyway?
Captain Crunch.
Yeah.
Captain Crunch is really bad. But so I mean, whatever. We all have our kids are weird, man. Kids just like do stupid shit.
Yeah.
I feel like we all had some like weird eating habits.
And they're who we make the cartoons for.
Yes.
Yeah, you dumb idiots. Thanks for listening. I wonder what the youngest listener we have is. Shout out. Give us your ages.
Probably now just like a 10-year-old, like, who already made like a 15-minute full animation.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Yeah, the internet's wild. It's like, you never really know how old somebody is, but like just seeing when people post their ages on Twitter and then the work they put out, I'm like, God, fuck. Like the bar has been set so much higher.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So you were on Mighty Ones.
Yes.
And then what did you move on to from there?
I was only on Mighty Ones season 1 for a short while, and then V actually recommended me for Jellystone, and then Hannah did, and Ian did, a couple of our friends.
Ian Muchler.
Yeah.
The show.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then Carl hit me up, and we went out to eat, and just like, it was a little like nerve-wracking because he just like, took me out to eat, and he was like, yeah, so like, what are you about? Like, just like, I was like, oh. But he was super nice, and we got along really well. And that was definitely the weirdest way to get a job, because like afterwards he was like, all right, well, like, let me know when you can start. And I was like,
That's
wow,
cool.
okay, cool.
Well, Carl is cool because he knows what he wants, and he hates the like studio grind. And so I think, in my experience with him, once he sees that you're funny and easy to get along with, that's it. Like, that's all that matters.
Yes, for sure. That was definitely a lot of shows. I mean, all the shows I worked on, I think, were super like, we want you for your humor, but especially that show, it was like pretty challenging. Just like, I would like write a funny joke and I'd be like, all right, good. And then Carl would be like, we gotta like bump it up a little bit. And I'm like, oh my God, that's the best I got. But we would always find a way to just like one up it and make it weirder and funnier, which was challenging. And that's like the first job where I was actually in the writer's room. So I was writing outlines and everything. So that was nerve-wracking in the beginning. Yeah,
Punch Up's hard until you realize you can do kind of anything at any time. Like,
yeah.
The weirder you go with a gag or a moment, the funnier it usually ends up being. Yeah, Jellystone was great. I got to work with you on it, like I said earlier, and like, yeah, and seeing it all come together was really cool. It was just, those pitches were hilarious. The biggest bummer for me, and I think for everyone on the show, was that we weren't in the office that long.
Yeah, only for like two pitches.
The pandemic. Yeah, the pandemic hit, and then it was just go home, and now we're all in our desks and like on what is it? Not Slack, but Teams, whatever the hell it was.
Yeah.
And that sucked. Because it was a really good vibe, and we were all friends, and it was just cool to see like people's pitches in person and get. It was probably hard for board artists to be pitching without like an audience, huh?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I've been doing it since Jellystone, because I went on to Mighty One season 2. It was actually at least like, because on Jellystone we all had a mute, so it's like just pitching to nothing and just like hoping people like it. But at least Mighty Ones, people could unmute and laugh and stuff. So that helped a lot.
Yeah, we did our best. Everyone that was in the chat would just do our best to just like all caps be like, ha 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 ha, like just, that was funny thing you just did.
And that was nice, just like looking back at the chat and just like, oh, they like this really specific joke I put in. But it's nothing compared to like being in a big room, and like what usually happens is like you pitch and then everyone's like, all right, the day's over, like let's go out to eat and then go home. Which is like what you would do at home as well, but it would be like, all right, well, I'll go lay in my bed now.
Just lay on the floor. Yeah. How many pitches did you have in the studio for Jellystone?
Only one. I only did one.
I was gonna say, I feel like I only remember one. Man, that sucks. Yeah. Oh, wow. I mean, it was a funny episode, but yeah, it sucks you didn't get to do more. That was a good crowd. What were you gonna say, V?
I was gonna say, like, depending on the show, like, you know, like you were mentioning, like, oh, you like pitch and you do your thing, and then y'all go out and like have drinks or whatever. Like, depending on the crew, like sometimes that happens, and you have like this cohesive, like camaraderie, and and sometimes it's more like this is a job, and now.
And now I'm done.
Yeah.
Go home.
Yeah. And I don't know, maybe some people prefer that, but I can't stand that. Like, I want to feel like it's a group effort and everyone's like a part of it.
Yeah. Definitely. But. Yeah, like on Thundercats, we would pitch and then just like all go out to the bar like immediately after, and just be like, whew, we did it.
Yeah, some shows do the pitches in front of everybody. I think when that's a smaller crew, it's also easier. You know, some shows I've worked on, it's like 60 plus people, and so it's like, I don't know if anybody wants to pitch to an entire venue of people. But I've done pitches to just like my director and the showrunner or whatever, and it was just weird because they're just like silent and they're analyzing every joke, and so I'm like trying extra hard to razzle dazzle them to like, look at how funny this shit is, right? And, it's weird. It's not my favorite. Are you on Mighty Ones still on second season?
No, I ended like a month or so ago, and I think I'm going on to something at Nickelodeon. That's cool. NDA right now.
Sure.
I can't say, but yeah, another cartoony, funny show.
Excellent. You talked when we were talking about your writing and your like offbeat sense of humor. I would love to know like what kind of stuff you pull from. Like what kind of stuff did you grow up liking, or even recently did you kind of discover you liked that inspires you in that way for the writing and as well as the boarding?
I'm thinking. I mean, I definitely like. I was just like looking back, and I think. Did you guys ever watch Freakazoid?
Oh yeah.
At all?
I have it on DVD.
Mm-hmm. I love Freakazoid. I was just
that makes sense. That
watching.
tracks.
I was watching clips recently, and I'm like, oh my god, it's so funny. Just like really random stuff. Like I don't really care for the celebrity like stuff that like Animaniacs and Freakazoid did, like all the Spielberg things. But some of the jokes are just random, but like in a good way. And I think it's like the voice acting's really, really good too. And it's like all the timing. It's like the voice acting, the timing, and just the delivery. And yeah, it's like perfect.
What's the name of the cop in Freakazoid? Because he's my favorite.
Cosgrove.
Cosgrove.
It's just
Freakazoid. You want to go get a mint?
Yeah, it's just like
he's so dry.
Yeah, and like the way he's drawn is so funny compared to like Freakazoid.
Yeah, he's like a sidekick. It's really fucking weird. It's so funny. Freakazoid's great.
Yeah, so that's a big one. And then I don't know if you all have ever heard of Grickle or Annabelle Graham.
Yes. Yeah.
He does like VU. I think you would like him. He does these comics, and he actually made like a puzzle game called Puzzle Agent that's in his style, but he always draws characters like pretty similar. They always have like a long nose, and it's like a little bit Jellystone actually, but I don't. It's definitely more dark for sure. He like the cartoons look kind of cuter, but he does like really dark like shorts and comics, and he's a really big inspiration to me. Just like the way he draws and everything. He's a good one.
Yeah, I can see that for sure.
Even though I never do any horror stuff. I don't think I've ever attempted to do a horror comic or anything.
I would love to see that.
Yeah, horror is... I feel like horror is tough because it's like, I don't know. Like I don't know. I've thought about horror a lot just because, I don't know. I'm not even that big of a horror buff, but I just kind of like that it, like... you might be able to create a strong sensation in your audience. I think that's like something that's really cool. So romance and horror for that are like really great genres because it's like really easy to kind of like trigger these emotions in your audience.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely do that with like the Rodney comics. It's like a little bit of like comedy, horror, and like a little romance, just like all combined in there.
A little bit of everything.
But then it's like, I feel like horror is hard because it's like, I feel like, I don't know, maybe, what do you guys think? Like, I think personally that the drawing style has to be on the realistic-ish kind of side, or else the horror doesn't hit as hard. I don't know.
Interesting.
It depends. It's like, have you ever read the comic Beautiful Darkness before?
I think so. Is it is it a French comic?
I think it might be, yes.
Let me double check Beautiful Darkness.
It's still like all the characters are very. They look like Cartoon Network characters. They're like super cutesy looking, but I think that makes it like 10 times scarier. Just like everything that happens, it's basically just a story of like all these little like women creatures like in a big backyard, and they kind of like come from a dead body, and you just like watch them slowly like get picked off one by one, and it's like just awful, but the style never changes. It's still like that cute style, and they never show blood, but like you get like what happens just from context, and it's just like, oh my god, this is terrifying.
I don't think it's, I think that, I mean, whatever tools somebody uses to emit that fear response is valid, but I do think there's something interesting to not resorting to the realism, because like you say, like there's other ways to handle it. I've always been interested in that myself, because I feel like when something is cute, you've lowered your guard more than if you're going into like a Junji Ito manga and everything's already unsettling. And it's a different vibe, and Junji Ito's great, but it's like, I think there's a lot of ground to cover that I haven't seen that many artists attempt, which is the like start with cute and then introduce fucked up shit, because then it's like you're not used to it and you're like, oh no, what's gonna happen to these kids? I think like I haven't played it, but I know of it. The Doki Doki Literature Club is like a good example of like, these are like cute girls, like they're high school girls, and then it's like the more you play it, it becomes very like messed up, and so you get kind of blindsided by it if you don't know what you're getting into. And like that's effective, because horror is a big part of horror is surprise, and
That's
shock.
true. That's really
that's
cool.
my take on it.
That's really cool to hear you guys' like take on it, because it's something that I think about a lot, and I'm like, I don't know the answer.
I would love to see a KDG horror comic.
Oh my god, that'll be the big. I want to like get better at drawing like monsters and stuff. That's definitely like a challenge for me, like monsters and anything serious. But
Well, the real monsters are people.
that's very true, G.
Oh, shit!
Oh my god.
Galaxy brain.
I love that. I love that. There's a part in Futurama where it's like a cold open, and he's like, I've combined all the most vicious animals to create the most evil organism. And then just a guy walks out of this tube, and he's like, turns out it's man. And then that's the end. I just find that very funny. Yeah, so that's cool. I think that, like the stuff you mentioned definitely makes sense, and it all kind of fuses into a style that I think that is very you. This sort of like offbeat, kind of like I don't know, I don't want to say rough drawing, but very loose, very very loose.
Yeah, for sure.
And that kind of stuff definitely benefits when you're going into doing comedy driven boarding comedy driven shows, because looseness is a big part of it, at least for the ones I think you've worked on.
Yeah, and that's why I like boarding, because I mean, at least the shows I've been on, it's like, oh, you don't have to draw like every fingernail and everything. No. You just need to like, tell the story, and that's, I don't know. I see like super clean boards and it makes me sad. Because I'm just like, that doesn't look fun. But I get it. I get why, but I try to avoid. So, because I don't think I could do it, and I don't think I would want to do it.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
How do you deal with creative block when you get it? And what does it feel like for you?
That's tough. I mean, I feel like I'm going through it a little bit right now. Okay. Just like a little bit of like a burnout from, like from COVID and
sure, just
the past shows I've been on. Working from home, it's just like makes everything so much more exhausting.
Oh, yeah.
But I feel like maybe what's been helping me is just like, okay, you don't have to draw anything finished. Just, I don't know, like draw something with 3 panels and just get it finished, or like complete it as much as possible. Mm-hmm. And I mean, if you don't draw, like you shouldn't punish yourself either. It's fine. Yeah. You don't have to draw every single day. I mean, obviously, the more you draw, the more your skills improve. But I don't know. If it starts to become not fun, then what's the point anymore? Absolutely. You're forcing yourself to do it. So I don't know. I just always try to at least write down ideas and think of stuff when I do get the ability to draw. I mean, I've been streaming a lot, and that's been a fun hobby. Because at one point I was just I don't want to draw. I just want to do creative stuff without having to produce artwork to put online or anything. I feel like that's a big pressure too. Yes. I would suggest just making art and then not posting it. Just keep it for yourself for a couple months and then you can post it. Because I think that exhausts people.
It's so tough because we've been conditioned to... It is good advice, but yeah, I
Yeah.
know it's like it's hard because everyone is so used. We've been conditioned to like put stuff out all the time. Like you need, it's the algorithm
Yeah.
and like all this shit, and it's and so it's really hard. I'm going through the same thing where I'm like I'm working on like a bigger project, but I'm trying to not just dump it all online as soon as I'm finished with like a piece of it because
Honestly,
it's like,
that's a really good piece of advice. I am completely unable to do that. Like I need the dopamine hit right off the bat. I'm like,
Yeah,
finish,
that's
post, likes.
totally
But
true.
it's like, I do think it's like a lot better to be able to just let it sit in a folder for a little bit, and because then you also get the chance to look at the art again and be like, hey,
Yeah.
do I,
Mhm.
you know, like kind of like, can I look at this again and maybe improve it, or actually just like post it, or I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's really solid advice we haven't heard on here before.
Yeah, that's
yeah,
a good
it is
one.
hard too. Like when you're looking for work, you know, everyone's
Yeah.
always like, "Are you being motivated? Are you making stuff?" It's like, I guess. I mean, I'm trying. It's like, oh, you haven't posted in like 3 days. I don't know.
Yeah.
So
Are
you
you
definitely
dead?
feel it. Yeah, it's like no, just like playing a game or something.
Yeah, enjoying my fucking life. I don't know. It's weird because I feel like, yeah, it didn't used to be that way, and it's gonna become old man Gene very soon, very fast. But yeah, I think when it's a problem with the social media that we have now because I feel like on DeviantArt there wasn't that burden somehow. I think it's because it wasn't a feed.
Yeah.
You just posted stuff, and you had to actually sift through it. You had to like put in the effort to look at everything in your notifications. At least I did.
Yeah.
And that made it feel a little bit more purposeful. And now it all just gets lost. It's hard to keep up. Yeah,
Definitely.
I think that's really good advice. I think it's good to put stuff away for a bit.
Yeah.
Just let it sit.
Let it sit.
Let it sit. We got some good questions for you, Katie.
Yeah.
From @DerekMalikJoe. I think we missed this drawing prompt. We got to draw hot versions of our favorite Hanna-Barbera characters.
Ooh.
Whoops.
Easy.
Oh man.
But their question is, what was the inspiration behind your current style, or what helped you get to the point of its development? And I guess specifically, let's talk about your drawing style, because you mentioned your sort of writing inspiration.
I feel like, I mean, I already said Grickle. That's
Sure.
a big one. And I like Meredith Gran.
Oh,
I believe
yeah.
that's their name. Who
Yes, yeah.
drew Octopus Pie. Like, that's a big one. Because, I don't know, they just draw, like, such emotional scenes, but still, like, do cartoony stuff, which I super love.
Yeah.
Lately, like, Lisa Hannawalt, definitely. Just, like, same thing, like, super cartoony, but really emotional and, like, relatable. That's a big one. I guess that's more writing, though. For drawing, it's, like, it's a little cliche, but definitely Adventure Time. I feel like that's super inspired a ton of people, including me. Just, like, not anatomically correct characters, but they're still super goofy looking and fun and just super wacky. And yeah, a bunch of, we talked a little bit. I loved reading autobio comics when I was in high school and college. I don't know, there's something about them that are just like super fun to read, and I guess it is just like wanting that relatability. But there's like a couple, let me think, there's one artist named Pranas, I believe, who used to do a bunch of them. I don't know if they still do, but he was a big one. And yeah, just stuff like that. Stuff that's not super clean, but like really emotional and impactful and funny. I can't think of specific.
No, I think those are great.
This is great. Yeah, we haven't had a lot of people talk about comics, like indie, like web comics kind of influences. So I think that's really great.
Yeah, Octopus Pie is great, and it is very unique in that it's, well, first of all, it's enormous. It's crazy that Meredith went that long and like finished it.
Yeah, it's nuts.
And yeah, it's right, it's that line between like cartoony comedy and like very sad, painful life experience shit. We got another question from @Megan Lands, our former coworker from Jellystone. Yeah. Hi, Katie. I know you're very engaged with the union and have been an advocate for yourself and your colleagues. Would you feel comfortable speaking to that at all? Not specifics, obviously, just what it's like and why it's important. Thanks.
Cool. Yeah, I feel
That's a great
like
question.
I definitely got super into the union like in the past like year or so. I mean, I've only been working in the industry and in the union for a little bit, but just like they recently, our union made a Discord, so that got me way more involved just because it was so easy to talk to people from just all the different studios and just relate to everybody, and a really easy way to ask questions. But yeah, you don't realize, I don't know, in any job, the company's going to try and take advantage of you in some form. So the union is definitely like great for that. Just like, oh, I have like this big group to back me up when things are very weird, you know, just like with pay stuff. Because for your first job, you don't think about that stuff. Like if you're being underpaid, you just want the job desperately. So you're just gonna be like, yes, which I definitely did for Thundercats. And I was paid like a good rate for sure for a starting job. Like looking back on what I know now, but now when I get a job, I, you know, make sure it's the minimum of the union and ask other people who are hired, like, oh, what are you making? What? Yeah. And learning, like, you can definitely ask for more. And I don't know, just like if you're feeling really, really stressed out from a schedule, it's more the schedule than you. And I think like a lot of artists blame themselves, like, I'm not fast enough, I'm not good enough. It's like, no, this is crazy. Like, yeah, because then you'll see like you're given like 4 weeks to do the same amount as a show that's been given 6 weeks, and you realize, oh, like they're doing okay, and I'm like crumbling. And so nobody should ever be stressed at their drawing job. And that's not, I feel like that's gonna be a crazy thing to hear for some people, and that's the problem, because like it shouldn't be the norm ever at any point, unless you want to do more than is asked, and that's your right to put in the extra work, you know. But like, man, like, and they don't care about you ultimately, like up at the top, and so like don't give them your life hours unless you really care about the project. For sure. And I mean, like, yeah, that's another thing, just like a lot of people don't know. Yeah, you're on a crew and you have to look out for each other. Because I mean, no one's gonna take you seriously if you're just coming to a production with issues. Like, you have to come together as a group, because a lot of the times they'll just be like, oh, it's just a problem with you, and it's like, no, everybody's having this issue, I'm just the only one speaking out about it. So if you come together, then it'll be like, oh, okay, they'll realize how serious it is. And you know, the union helps with that. Solidarity. I'm glad that it's becoming more normalized for people to talk about their salaries, and maybe that's just from my perspective, because I had to overcome that like discomfort. But at least in animation, I've gotten over the icky feeling of being like, how much do you make? Now I just fucking I'm just like, hey, friend that is also doing the same job, how much are you making? And I feel like if they don't tell me, again, it's their right, but it's kind of fucked up. Because I think that like we're all supposed to be making the same amount, and it's good to be vocal about that kind of thing, because like, you don't know, somebody next to you could be making a lot more, and that's for the same exact job, and it's ultimately just kind of unfair. That's my opinion. Full disclaimer. My opinion. Be vocal about how much you make and ask people, because I think that's how we improve our salaries and everything, and you know. Yeah, I think a lot of people worry about just like, oh, I think I'm definitely making more than the person asking. I don't want them to be offended, but it's like, it's okay. No one's gonna blame anybody. the who's gonna be at fault is the production, not like a singular person. It's like, oh, of course I want you to be paid more. It's just, oh, maybe like I want to be paid more too, so I'm gonna that's the thing. Like go for it.
if you break it down, I get the fear because people don't, it's an uncomfortable thing. But nobody that says how much they make is going to get paid less.
Yeah.
Like, they're not going to be like, how dare you say your salary? You've been like given, whatever, $10 less an hour. But it helps the people around you. It creates an even playing field. And the people who are shelling out the money are the studios, and they're not going to want they're not going to want people to talk because they want to pay less. That's just capitalism.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, little bit of wisdom for anybody that's starting out.
Yeah.
Ask your friends that are already employed. From @Papayaya. Katie, what was it like moving from the East Coast out to LA? What were your first impressions about LA, positive and negative? What's your opinion on work culture in LA?
I feel like moving out, it was definitely like a whole different world than Philadelphia, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, LA is so weird. It's like, it's nice here because it's only because of the people, really. I mean, the weather is nice too, but there are a lot of like negatives to being out here for sure, which we all know. Mainly just, it's like a pro and con because if I want to visit V in downtown LA, I have to like plan out the whole day because it'll take like an hour sometimes, which if you took the train or something, it takes 20 minutes maybe, or like 15, but with traffic it just takes way longer, and that's crazy to me. But that's definitely just like getting around is a little headache, and I miss definitely walking everywhere. Like Philly, I would just take the subway, and New York you could get anywhere. Here it's like, okay, if you don't have a car, it's so much harder to get around. You can definitely take public transit, but half the time you'll usually be like, let me just take an Uber or Lyft to get there on time because it's rough. So that's the thing I hate the most about being here. But also on the flip side, like there's so many places you can go in California that are so wildly different, and they're only like an hour or two away. Like you can go to Yosemite, you can go to Big Bear where it's snowing. You could go to so many mountain locations, and like you're right near the beach, so many like beaches and stuff. So it's been a lot of fun just like going on short trips and exploring. And then there's like just really cool stuff like that you wouldn't have in some places at home. Like it's kind of cliche, but just like round one and getting to play a bunch of like arcade games from Japan, like back in South Jersey, I would need to travel like 2 hours to just go to a comic store and get like Teen Titans comics when I was little. It's just like, it's not as abundant as it is here. Just like comic and animation scenes. There's like always an animation event because I mean, that's where everything around here is. Like the first time I moved out here, I did, I forget what it's called. It's like the shorts. Or like 5-second shorts.
5 second
Loop-de-loop?
Loop-de-loop. That's what it was.
Oh, Loop-de-loop. I forgot. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, and I was doing like a bunch of those because they would have screenings in LA, and that was a great way to meet people and just like show off my work in a fun way. It's like that would never be anywhere in South Jersey. Maybe I think it's in New York and stuff, but
sure,
not in like little towns. So that's been really nice.
Yeah, we're definitely lucky to be in a hub. It's like I take it for granted a little bit sometimes, and then I'll go visit home, and like there's like a little I'm sure some people know of it. It's like a marketplace called Mitsuwa. I think it might be a chain.
Oh yeah, I love Mitsuwa Market.
Yeah, Mitsuwa's great, but it's like having Little Tokyo so close to us. I'm like, Mitsuwa. Like I feel like that was like the shit when I was in college and just starting my adult life. But now I go back, I'm like, oh man, this is just like, and then I'm I've been lucky to go to Japan a couple times, and so it's like, but that's like all people have back in those small suburbs is like those little like marketplaces and things.
Yeah, and that like the food too. All I ate. I mean, I should have eaten more because Philadelphia definitely has these foods, but I didn't until I moved to LA. I didn't have ramen or just Korean barbecue before, or even like good tacos living at home. Like it's just like cheesesteaks and pizza and a bunch of Italian food in South Jersey, and that's all.
Yeah. Has it gotten better when you go back to visit? Have you noticed a change?
No, I was just there for a while during COVID. I stayed at home for a bit, and yeah, it was just like, nope, we're just gonna eat pasta and everything. There's no variety really.
Yeah, I visit home like twice a year or so in the suburbs of Chicago, and like it's getting a little better. Like I've noticed over the years there's a bit more variety, but maybe it's even more of like a hub. Like it's a really packed in suburb, so maybe there's a bit more like cultural diversity and stuff. But yeah, it's not the same, and there's no Postmates. I think it's not very good, so like good luck getting anything delivered even, you know.
Yeah, we ordered sushi, and it was like the soggiest, nastiest sushi I've ever had, and I was like, no, well, we tried.
You do what you can. Is there anything you want to plug while you're on Creative Block?
You can follow my artwork at Big Nose Bug. Wow. I'm sure you'll link it. But that's where I'm on Instagram and Twitter. That's where I post all my comics and everything. And I've recently been streaming with a VTuber, which has been super, super fun.
It's very funny.
So on Twitch, I'm Big Nose Bug, but the O in nose is a 0. Very confusing. Someone took the one without a 0, and I hate them. So
those bastards.
I know. I want that account. I'm gonna get it. I don't know how yet, but it'll happen.
Just hire a bunch of hackers.
Yeah.
That's how you do it.
Hire an
Go on the dark web. Compromise your identity.
My Suicide Squad team.
Yeah, get your Suicide. Your Digi Suicide Squad.
Yeah, you can follow me there.
Awesome. Well, that's the end of this Creative Block. Thanks to Katie for being our guest and sharing her story.
And thanks to your listeners. Follow us on Twitter. It's at Creative Block, creative without the vowels, where we ask for drawing prompts and questions to ask our guests. Huge thanks to my sister Clemens for editing the podcast.
Please subscribe to the channel if you love our content. I've been your host, Gene.
And I was V, keeping creative, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.